There's always someone walking among us who has nefarious objectives and will use some of our greatest technology for the unraveling of civilization. That's always been the case.
A spacecraft built and flown by Texas-based company Intuitive Machines has landed near the south pole of the moon. It's the first touchdown achieved by the private sector and also the first for the United States in more than half a century.
If I draw a small triangle, I think you will believe that nearby, if I look at it closely, it is very near a flat surface, and my propositions will not be much different if I work on the flat surface. But if I draw a large triangle, a line like that, and let me draw a nice right angle here, it's a good right angle, and a nice right angle here, that's a good right angle. But if I continue with straight lines, of course, on the flat plane I never meet, but here I make a splendid triangle. Well, I submit, if they're 90 degrees here pretty close and 90 degrees here pretty close.
Yesterday we thought, just to clear up some confusion, we thought we were upright. And the reason was that the tanks were reading, this is the X direction, and the tanks were reading gravity on the moon. At the fill levels, there were still residuals in the tank, and we saw those measurements in the X direction. Well, that was stale telemetry, so when we worked through the night to get other telemetry down, we noticed that in the Z direction, this direction, is where we're seeing the residual tank quantities. And so that's what tells us with fairly certain terms. The majority of our payloads are all in view, and we are collecting science, and we've collected science along the way.
From 90 to 180, an angle is obtuse. This angle's kind of fat, it's got a big caboose. Like the hands on the clock when it's 1:45, or the antlers on the head of a full-grown moose. Ready, set, go.
All stations, this is Mission Director on IM-1. We're evaluating how we can refine that signal and dial in the pointing for our dishes. What we can confirm, without a doubt, is our equipment is on the surface of the moon, and we are transmitting. So, congratulations, IM team. We'll see how much more we can get from that.
I know this was a nail biter, but we are on the surface, and we are transmitting, and welcome to the moon.
Well, hello everybody. I reflected before we came into the briefing studio this afternoon that this is the first briefing about being on the surface of the moon for the first time in about 52 years in this room. So that's quite incredible, and it's a pleasure to be here. Intuitive Machines, Odysseus lander landed yesterday at 5:24 Central Time.
First up, we have Gina Sinceri with ABC News. Gina?
I think this question is for either Steve or Tim. What was your Hail Mary moment during that, where you went, we think we can make this work, and we just made it work? What were those moments, or were there more than one?
Well, I think there were several of those moments. Like I said, it was a spicy mission. I'll let Tim comment a little bit, but you know, the idea to pull the range telemetry from the NASA Doppler LiDAR was interesting, and change out the laser rangefinder call-outs in the navigation application. All that was very straightforward to go calculate. Part of that was put in a table, but part of that had to mean that we had to rewrite the navigation application software. And when you do that, to upload it to the vehicle, you actually have to stop guidance, navigation, and control.
And most of that lunar gravity was in the Z direction on that model, which is up along fairly close to level.
And it was done by a private sector spacecraft, the first ever to touch the lunar surface. The uncrewed six-legged lander named Odysseus was developed by Intuitive Machines, a company based in Texas.
What we can confirm, without a doubt, is our equipment is on the surface of the moon, and we are transmitting. So, congratulations, IM team. We'll see how much more we can get from that.
Odysseus's landing came after a nail-biting final approach and descent, and there was a problem with the spacecraft's autonomous navigation system. Engineers had to deploy an untested workaround at the 11th hour. Then there was a radio blackout, which was anticipated, and it took time for mission control to reestablish contact. When communications did come back, the signal was faint, but it confirmed that Odysseus had touched down.
This feat is a giant leap forward for all of humanity.
The scalps, the stereo cameras, we're waiting for the pictures to come back there, but everything else seems to be working very well, so we anticipate that worked well during the descent as well, and just waiting for the data to come back to analyze to see how that went. So a lot of the payloads have already been successfully demonstrated.
We're downloading and downloading data from the buffers in the spacecraft and commanding the spacecraft, and trying to get you surface photos, because I know that everyone's hungry for those surface photos.
Is that the front side of the moon or the back side that we don't really see?
The back side, right. It's in shadow.
Earth is pretty photogenic, by the way.
Thank you.
I got your number. If you were straight, it's 180 degrees that you make. Come on, angles. Don't you tangle with me.
And hopefully we'll get a picture here this weekend and share it with you.
In the non-Euclidean geometry of a sphere.
We all were deceived. We all had the spinning ball put in our classroom from the time we were little wee tots that says on the bottom, not for educational purposes.
Thanks a lot for searching that out. I appreciate that. Fisherman in the box. Fisherman in a box.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly. We'd have way better CGI if it was fake.